Have you ever felt like life is blocking you? Like the more you want something, the further it slips away? Here's the truth, and it might sting. You're not being held back because you're unworthy. You're being held back because you're holding on too tightly. Wanting something deeply isn't the problem. Needing it to feel whole, that's where the storm begins. In this video, we're going to explore how the Stoic wisdom of letting go can transform your life. We'll walk through 10 powerful lessons, each rooted in ancient philosophy and brought to life with real modern examples of Stoic detachment. You'll see why the less you need, the more you receive, and how to make that shift without losing your passion. We're not abandoning our goals, we're just letting go of the anxiety that's been strangling them. So if something here reaches that quiet part inside you, the part that's been trying too hard for too long just to feel enough, stay with us. Let's begin. Lesson 1. When desire turns into need. It all begins with desire. You want something deeply, a relationship that feels safe, a career that finally honors your effort, a moment of certainty that whispers, yes, this is it, and there's nothing wrong with that. To want is human. It's the seed of every dream, the fire that keeps us moving forward. But somewhere along the way, desire quietly crosses a line. What began as inspiration slowly hardens into dependence. Without realizing it, you convince yourself, if I don't get this, I won't be okay. And that's when the wait begins. Your energy shifts. You're no longer calmly moving toward your goal. You're chasing it with anxious desperation, as if you'll fall apart without it. You're not asking life for possibilities anymore. You're begging it to save you. And here's the worst part. The tighter you grip, the more things slip through your fingers. As Carl Jung insightfully said, what you resist not only persists but will grow in size. The more you believe you must have something to be whole, the more resistance you create, not just in the world around you but in yourself. You become tense, reactive, exhausted. And it's not because your dream is too far away. It's because your desperation is building walls between you and it. There's a quiet paradox in life. Nothing aligned with your peace will ever enter through panic. The things truly meant for you, they don't arrive when you're spiraling. They come in stillness, not struggle. What's truly yours will never ask you to hold it with clenched fists. It will stay, not because you chase it, but because you're ready to hold it with calm, open hands. Lesson 2. The freedom of letting go. But when you're caught in need, calm is the first thing to go. You start overthinking the silences. You read too much into delays. You're no longer listening to your life. You're interrogating it, demanding answers it's not ready to give. And in all that noise, you lose your most powerful guide, clarity. Socrates once said, "He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." When you need something outside of you to feel okay, you go blind, not only to what you already have, but to the strength you already are. You could be surrounded by love, surrounded by possibility, by opportunities just waiting for your attention. But if your mind is fixated on what's missing, you won't feel any of it. And so the loop begins. You feel like you need more to feel okay. So you chase more. But the very act of chasing only reinforces the idea that you're not okay now. The more you look for peace outside yourself, the further it drifts. And when that thing finally comes, the relationship, the job, the yes you thought would fix it all, you can't even relax into it. Instead of feeling peace, you feel fear. Fear that it'll leave. Fear that you didn't really deserve it. That's what need does. It makes you feel like even when you win, you're still at risk. So what's the way out? You loosen the grip. Not by giving up, not by going cold or numb, but by letting go of the story that says you're not whole unless that one thing or that one person arrives to complete you. Epictetus said it best. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Let's be clear. Contentment is not resignation. It's strength. It's the kind of calm that creates space for what's real to enter. Because when you stop chasing with panic, you start inviting with presence. When you release the tight grip, your hands are finally open to receive. And from that space, a calm energy rises. Not because everything's perfect, but because you no longer need everything to go perfectly just to feel okay. That calm doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful, because now you're not reacting from fear. You're responding from trust. And that's the difference most people never learn. You don't attract peace by needing it. You attract peace by becoming someone who doesn't panic in its absence. Lesson 3. Control and acceptance. This is where the shift begins. Not because the world suddenly gets easier, but because you stop getting in your own way. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." And once you see how your own need has built the walls of your prison, you'll also see the door. To step out of the cycle of clinging, you have to get crystal clear about one thing: what is within your control and what isn't. The Stoic masters like Epictetus taught us to ask this daily. Does this depend on me or not? Your actions, your attitude, your effort, these are yours. But outcomes, reactions, external events, those belong to the universe. Think of an archer. He trains relentlessly, he perfects his shot, but the moment he releases the arrow, he can no longer control where it goes. A sudden gust of wind, the movement of the target, anything can change the result. The freedom of the Stoic archer lies in this awareness. He controls the aim, not the outcome. The bow and the arrow, his preparation, his intent, his effort, that's where his power lies. What happens next belongs to fate. And understanding this, it brings relief. Because once you make peace with the truth that you cannot control everything, you stop wasting your energy on what doesn't serve you. Instead of drowning in anxiety about the future, you give everything you have to this moment. You pour your best into the now, and you let the future take care of itself. That's not passivity, it's conscious action. It's taking full responsibility for what is yours and letting go of what isn't. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So focus on your part of the arrow, the part before it flies. Focus on who you are and how you show up, regardless of whether the world applauds you or not. And if something doesn't turn out the way you hoped, the Stoic response is acceptance. I gave it everything. Now, I learn from what came. Because then, every outcome becomes a gift. Either the success you hoped for, or the wisdom you needed. Lesson 4. The power of calm. There is a stillness that awakens when you no longer need everything to go your way. And that stillness isn't weakness. It's disguised strength. In today's world, most people live in a constant storm. We've been trained to worry, to push, to control everything as if that's the only path to success. But the Stoics, and many modern psychologists, see it differently. That storm inside us is what's actually blocking us. The more desperately you try to force something to happen, the more walls of resistance you unknowingly build around it. It's like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the less you hold. That's because fear and panic are suffocating conditions. Nothing healthy thrives in that space. Not love, not creativity, not the opportunities you long for. Those things need room. They need space to breathe. Now think of the opposite. Remember a moment when you felt completely at peace, in flow, maybe while creating something you loved, or while talking to someone who made time disappear. In that moment, you weren't anxious about results. You were present. And that's usually when beautiful things happen. Your work flows, your connections deepen. Calm is magnetic. As psychologist Leon F. Seltzer writes, paraphrasing Jung, "When you fully accept what is, you place yourself in the best position to change or outgrow it. Saying, yes, this is how it is right now, stops you from fighting phantoms. Your energy no longer drains into resistance. It becomes fuel for action or for peaceful adaptation." The Stoics called this ataraxia. a deep inner tranquility untouched by external chaos. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means that whatever happens around you, you remain steady within. And that makes you more effective, not less. With calm comes clarity. And in clarity, you make better choices, not by trying harder, but by seeing clearer. You stop running in a frenzy. You move with purpose. And others begin to notice something different about you. A quiet strength, a steady presence. Something that doesn't shout, doesn't beg, it just is. And that's more than enough. Lesson 5. Wholeness comes from within. Ask yourself honestly, why do I really want what I want? Is it inspiration, or is it fear? Are you reaching for love because you feel full and ready to share it, or because you're terrified of being alone? Are you chasing success because you're excited to grow, or because a voice inside keeps whispering that you're nothing without a title or a win? On the surface, the actions might look the same. You're working hard, you're driven, you've got ambition. But underneath it all, the fuel makes all the difference. If your fuel is panic, pressure, and inner emptiness, then even if you succeed, it will never fill you. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If you never stop to examine what's really driving you, you'll think life is unfair, when it's actually just mirroring back your inner world. The universe doesn't respond to carefully crafted words. It responds to your state, to your presence, to your energy. You ever notice how, when you're desperate, even if you say the right things, something in your vibe feels off? You might land the job, but feel like you're constantly on trial, terrified of failing. You might start the relationship, but feel one wrong move away from being left. Panic doesn't build peace, it builds pressure. But when your energy is calm, rooted in a quiet sense of inner wholeness, you don't stop wanting. You just stop demanding. You still desire connection, but you're not afraid to be with yourself. You still strive for excellence, but you're not doing it to outrun shame. And that's the beginning of alignment, because when your actions come from love, not lack, you start receiving the very things you longed for, but in ways that feel natural, not forced. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, said, "Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it, the more you miss it." For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to a cause greater than oneself. In other words, success and happiness are byproducts. They come when you're devoted to something that matters, not when you chase them directly. When you're whole inside, your goals aren't desperate attempts to fix you. They're expressions of who you already are. And when your energy flows from that place, somehow, almost magically, life responds. Plato said, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." That doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you stop tying your value to whether those dreams come true. You still pursue them, but from joy, not panic. And life, seeing the stillness in your heart, finally starts bringing you exactly what you need when you're ready to receive it. Lesson 6. Detachment is not indifference. One of the most common mistakes we make is confusing detachment with not caring. But Stoic detachment is not coldness. It's not cynicism. It doesn't mean giving up on your goals or stopping yourself from loving deeply. It means loving without fear, aiming without anxiety. When the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote letters about inner peace, he didn't say, "Don't have dreams." He said, "Don't make your happiness a hostage to fortune." Desire what you want, but don't tie your happiness to whether or not you get it. Love fully, but don't place your worth in whether or not that love is returned. Detachment, then, is balanced devotion. It's like holding a precious bird in your palm. You care for it, you value it, but you don't clench your hand to trap it. You let it breathe, and if it must fly away, you let it go. Likewise, when you pursue a dream, you give it your heart. But if things don't go the way you hoped, you remain standing. You're not untouched by sadness or disappointment, but you're not destroyed either. Because deep down, you know, I am something beyond this outcome. Socrates once said, He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. And that's the key. If you can't find a measure of peace now, you likely won't find it at the finish line either. Not because the goal isn't beautiful, but because peace has always been an inside job. So what does detachment look like in practice? It means you don't panic in the void. It means when the phone doesn't ring with the answer you crave, you don't spiral into stories of doom. You care deeply, but you're not obsessed. You work hard, but not because you're terrified that if you don't overperform, you'll be forgotten. You do it because you love what you do. This mindset doesn't kill your passion, it purifies it. It removes the fear and lets your fire burn clean. Think of a runner. If he spends the entire sprint looking over his shoulder, he'll exhaust himself and likely lose. But if he stays focused on his own stride, present in every step, he runs stronger and enjoys the race. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means you give your best. And then you say, "All right, let life do the rest." That's not surrender. It's courage. Courage to let go. Courage to trust that if you've done your part, the universe will do its own. Most people never get there. And that's why they stay stuck in the cycle of panic. Lesson 7. Presence and authenticity. How many times have you said yes while every part of you was screaming no? How many times have you smiled through something that hurt you deeply just to avoid disappointing someone? Need creates masks. It convinces you to pretend to be something you're not, to play roles to earn approval, attention, love. When you're afraid that people won't love the real you, you start performing. You try to be funnier, more impressive, more perfect, whatever you think others want. And that performance is exhausting. Worse, the relationships and achievements built on performance are always fragile. Because deep down, you'll always wonder, do they love me or just my mask? Presence, being fully, unapologetically yourself in the now, is one of the rarest and most powerful things. And here's the paradox. When you stop performing, people actually start noticing you more. Not everyone, just the right ones, the ones who matter. Because authenticity has a quiet, magnetic glow. It doesn't scream, "Look at me," but it's impossible to ignore. Carl Jung said it beautifully. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you don't claim that privilege by pleasing everyone. You claim it by letting go of image and turning toward truth. When you no longer need approval, you become strangely captivating. People feel it. You walk into a room and you're not in a rush to fill the silence. You're not desperate to prove your worth. Your calm speaks for itself. You're not trying to impress, but you're not hiding either. You're present. You're grounded. You're whole. And in a world full of noise and pretending, that presence stands out. People are starving for something real, for someone who is at home in themselves, for someone who doesn't wear arrogance as armor, but exudes quiet confidence without needing to boast. Aristotle said, "Happiness depends upon ourselves," meaning, it doesn't depend on how others see you, but on how you see yourself. If you're at peace with you, you don't need to raise your voice to prove anything. You don't need to say you're enough. Your presence says it for you. And ironically, that's when you become unforgettable. Not because you tried harder, but because people feel safer being themselves around you. Lesson 8. Boundaries and self-worth. Let's be honest. How many times have you settled for less than you deserve just because you were afraid of having nothing? Maybe you stayed in friendships or relationships that drained you because the idea of being alone felt unbearable. Maybe you accepted jobs that didn't grow you because you feared you wouldn't find anything better. Maybe you said yes to invitations and favors when everything inside you was shouting no, just to avoid disappointing someone. This is the trap of need. It convinces you that crumbs are better than nothing, that it's safer to hold on to something half right than risk the silence of letting go. It tells you that clinging to something, even if it's hurting you, is courage, and that walking away is weakness. But here's a quiet truth. The less you need, the clearer you see. When you give yourself space to breathe, without rushing to fill the emptiness, You start to realize you never lacked options, you only lacked belief. Jung put it simply, we don't solve our problems, we outgrow them. Some situations don't improve with force or overthinking. They dissolve when you rise above them, and that rising doesn't happen when you're tangled in fear. It happens when you stop letting fear decide what you're willing to accept. As your need diminishes, something else rises, clarity. Not because you become hard or cold, but because you become grounded. You're no longer driven by panic or emptiness. You're led by peace. And from that place, the world looks different. What once looked like opportunity now looks like compromise. What once felt like love now feels like confusion. You start to see the difference between what your fear was begging for and what your peace has been patiently waiting to receive. Plato said, "The beginning is the most important part of the work, and the beginning of real change often starts with a quiet decision. I won't accept less anymore just because it's here. I'll wait for what's right." It's the moment you choose truth over illusion, integrity over validation, stillness over noise. When you stop needing crumbs, you start expecting the full meal. You raise your standards, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with your true self. And what is truly yours, what was meant for you all along, won't require you to beg, shrink, or guess. It will meet you right where your peace begins, because that's the only place it can truly thrive. Lesson 9. You attract when you stop chasing. Let's be clear. Life doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your energy. When your energy radiates lack, panic, and the need to control, life will simply reflect that back to you. More reasons to worry, more moments that feel just out of reach. Have you noticed? When you're desperate for something, it often won't come. But when you finally let go of the obsession, it somehow shows up. This isn't magic. It's not a mysterious universal law, it's just reality. People and opportunities are drawn to calm confidence, not anxious need. Picture a job interview. One candidate reeks of stress and desperation. They really need this job and it shows. The other, calm, eager, yes, but secure in themselves. If it's the right fit, great. If not, I'll find another way. Who gets hired? Usually the second. Why? Because desperation sends the message. Something must be wrong. While composure whispers, I know who I am. Confidence without arrogance attracts. Desperation repels. It's the same in love. You've heard the stories. I stopped looking. I made peace with being on my own. And then I met the love of my life. Not because the universe was teasing them, but because for the first time they weren't carrying the heavy weight of need into every interaction. They were themselves, peaceful, whole. And love grew from that, not as a rescue mission, but as a complement to an already full life. Jung put it plainly, what you resist persists, and what you refuse to feel continues to control you. If you feel empty inside, and instead of facing it you chase external fixes, the world will keep you in waiting. Because what you're trying to grab out there, you were meant to find inside first. There's an old saying, to get what you want what you have. It doesn't mean stop dreaming, it means appreciate this moment. Find a sense of enoughness in the now. Because gratitude is fertile ground. When you say to life, I am well, I am open to more, but I'm not missing anything, life hears that as an invitation, not a demand. Epictetus taught, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. The more desperately you chase money, validation, approval, the more those things own you. But when you desire them without clinging, you remain sovereign. And ironically, those things come to you as companions, not masters. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. Not because you gave up, but because your effort now comes from peace, not fear. You're not begging life to notice you. You're too busy living, and life can't help but notice that. The doors that once stayed shut begin to open, quietly, naturally. The right people appear, the right opportunities unfold. Because you weren't running blindly, you were open to see them. Lesson 10. Trusting the flow of life. In the end, everything comes down to trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Letting go of need doesn't mean you end up with less. Often you start receiving more, not because you begged for it, but because you created space for it to arrive. When you unclench your fists, you'll see that life was never as stingy as you feared. What truly belongs to you, what's genuinely aligned with your path, has been waiting for your hands to open. While you were gripping, pushing, panicking, those things stood patiently at the edge. Once you calmed and trusted, they came closer. Think of Steve Jobs. When he was fired from Apple, the very company he created, he was devastated. But later he said, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. Through that unexpected detachment, he found new power. He started next. He built Pixar. He evolved. And eventually, he returned to Apple triumphant. His story holds a core truth of the Stoic art of letting go. Sometimes, when you stop fearing the loss, you gain something far greater. When you stop fearing the unknown, it becomes a canvas, not a threat, but the blank space where your next masterpiece begins. Socrates once said, "The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." When you let go of need, you stop fighting. You stop burning your soul trying to control what already happened or what hasn't even come yet. You begin to build the present. You become the kind of person who isn't shaken by delays, by silence, by detours. Not because you know what's coming, but because you trust that whatever the next moment brings, you'll meet it with strength. You're no longer trying to escape yourself, so nothing outside of you can unseat you. That presence, it's rare, it's magnetic, not because it tries to be, but because it simply is. In a world full of noise and grasping, your peace becomes a lighthouse, not just for those around you, but for the beautiful possibilities that have been searching for you. Life never wanted your panic. It wanted your quiet certainty. It wanted you without the noise of fear standing firm. And now that you are, life is ready to meet you there. Remember this: you were never meant to beg for what already belongs to you. Loosen the grip. Let life come closer. Because what's truly yours will never ask you to chase it to exhaustion. It will find its way to you when you've found your way back to yourself. You've always been whole, and when you remember that, the world reflects it back. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the first and most powerful step. You turned inward. Stoic philosophy isn't just something to admire. It's a path you walk through action, reflection, stillness, and strength. If today's words stirred something in you, if you feel it's time to stop chasing and start standing still, if you're choosing to become calm power in a chaotic world, then you're already in the right place. Subscribe to Be Stoic to keep walking this path together. Here we talk about self-mastery, inner peace, and true freedom. Watch our other videos. Each one is a step toward becoming grounded, clear, and wise. And remember this: the world around you may be a storm, but within you, you can become the anchor. You can be stoic. We'll be here whenever you need clarity, quiet, steady, and always real.